This story was put together in a collaboration between the Discord servers, Star Wars Galaxy, Pottercord and the Emerald Library. This masterpiece was created by Bryce, Dread Persephone and Scarlet. We hope you enjoy, and all links will be put in the description. Choice. Jared didn't know what he would do. 2 doors hung open on the adjacent wall, identical to the one he had just passed through, except for one substantial difference. The one he had come through was closed. He wasn't exactly surprised. The labyrinth was constantly churning and rotating under the surface. He clutched his E11 tighter. Jared didn't know what to expect, but whatever he was expecting, this was worse. He chose the door on the left. There was no reason for his decision, only he knew he couldn't wait around until he starved. His meager rations in his backpack wouldn't last for very long once he knew which way he was going. The darkness of the doorway led to a long hall, which led to an identical room with 2 more doors. He cursed with the foulest Rhodian he had picked up. Frantically, he rushed through the next door to his left. The unyielding darkness of the corridors was no match for his fury. The next room was also identical except minus the doors. He cursed again. His loose education in the slums of Coruscant was really serving him well today. He turned around. The doorway he had gone through was gone. His frustration was insurmountable. He looked around. 2 doors, yet again identical, had appeared in the same position in the wall. The sudden shock of the appearance was overwhelmed by worry. There was a breeze. He hadn't noticed it until it came back. The stagnant air slowly swirled out of one of the doorways, ruffling Jared's hair and brushing against the straps on his backpack. He remembered back to what the shaman had warned him about earlier. Great beasts lurked down there. The shaman laughed. "You will fit right in." The joke seemed a lot less funny now. Advancing down the hallway, Jared began to wish he had bought a flashlight, or even some spare clothes to burn as a vague torch. He advanced from room to room, through various doorways with identical features, past various other dark hallways, all while following the ever-growing breeze. The bigger monsters always guarded the biggest treasures. At least the stories said so. He would make a name for himself, prove himself to everyone. His thoughts drove him ever quickly on, his fearful quaking replaced with new resolve. Slowly the rooms changed, or more accurately, his perception of them did. He began to see tinier details. A nick here, a stalagmite there. He even recognized some of the doors he passed previously, but he had his direction. The breeze guided his way. A different door came into sight. The once slight gust had now risen into a strong gale, resisting Jared's advances. The door itself was an ornate one, sculpted out of a type of cortosis. Its beautiful patterns were not obscured by the verdigris coloring the sculpted artwork. Then he saw it through the door. A still black pool, light just barely reaching the surface from somewhere down below. Jared crept closer, gripped tight around his blaster. The glow from beneath was faintly golden, like a reflection of sunlight. Or the glow of treasure. He looked around the room, inspecting the walls, the domed ceiling, the intricate mosaics and green paneling. Etched high above, just barely illuminated by some sort of lichen or moss, were wild carvings of people long ago, locked in combat with long, thin swords. The carvings circled the room, an endless showcase of war. Circling the pool in the center were tall columns supporting the domed ceiling. Beyond that were rows and rows of short raised platforms, tombs, maybe. But nothing so bright as the light in the water. It flickered slightly, distorting and moving like something was swimming in front of it. He fished a small stone fragment off the ground, likely the remains of some statue that had fallen. Crouching to pick it up and looking around the room once more. It was quiet. Still. Empty, presumably. Or at least of any life other than him. He tossed the stone into the water, the quiet plunk reverberating around the room as the stone sank, drifting slowly deeper, quickly vanishing from sight. "Well, that didn't work," he commented aloud. He didn't have any other way of seeing how deep the water was, but he was certain there was treasure below. How deep could it possibly be? Jared stripped of everything he didn't think would be useful, carefully securing his E11 and a vibroblade within reach, flicking his wrist to eject the whipcord to tie around a column. He dipped one hand into the water, feeling for depth. It was shallow, at least on the edges, and not to mention frigid. He stepped slowly into the water, bracing himself with each inch deeper he wandered, until the next step sent him falling off an edge, plunging backwards into the water. He kicked up to the surface, searching desperately for purchase once more. He treaded water for a moment, taking deep breaths to prepare himself and looking for the golden light below. It was still there, only distorted by little ripples across the surface from his movement. Jared caught his breath, steeling his nerves. This was what he was here for. This was his treasure. He dove below, kicking hard, eyes peeled as he looked toward the glow. With each second he plunged deeper into the cold water, the light burning brighter. He pushed further and further as his lungs burned, desperate for air. He was almost there. He sucked in desperate breaths of air, treading the water wildly as he looked around. The light of the moon and foreign stars shimmered on the quiet water, distant shadows of trees and hills circling the lake he'd emerged into. Below him, there was nothing but darkness. No light of treasure, nor anything other than empty water. Where the hell did he end up? He noticed that all of his belongings were gone. His E11, his vibroblade, and even his clothes. He was dressed in what looked like a white blanket. It was tied at his waist with a golden wire. He was suddenly pulled towards the shore. "Oh, look at that, Artie, we've got another one," a voice echoed in the forest. Jared looked around frantically, searching for its source. "Little hero," the voice crooned, "you've come here looking for treasure." Jared absently nodded at that. The voice had made him feel as if he was floating, as if he no longer had control on his actions. The voice laughed at that, and he felt that the volume would burst his eardrums, but yet he didn't move his hand to cover his ears. His limbs just refused to listen to him. Something gripped at his neck and he thrashed around, trying to get free, but the grip tightened. He stopped his movement. "Survive the night in the forest, young hero, and you might find the treasure you come looking for," the voice whispered in his ear. He shuddered. The voice laughed. "Use what you have and try not to die like the rest of them," the voice said, and the grip was gone. He sank down to his knees, desperately taking in deep breaths. When he opened his eyes he was all alone. The lake was behind him and the forest ahead. There were weird rock-like structures on the other side of the lake. The next few hours were wild. He was attacked by a snake, which he managed to kill with a rock. A vulture attacked him when he was asleep. He panicked and hit it, smashing it into the tree. Just as he was about to doze off by a tree, something slimy gripped his ankle and pulled. As he was getting hit by branches and roots of the trees, he noticed that the creature was dragging him into the lake. He refused to die without his treasure. He tugged at the wire at his waist, not paying attention to his bleeding hands, and cut the creature with the wire. He continued to fight through the night. He used the blanket to tie up a creature that had a mouth as big as his head. He pulled out the creature's teeth and used it against other monsters. He used the carcass of another monster as a shield. By the morning he was tired, naked, and the only things he had with him were a tooth knife and a carcass shield that he tied around himself using dead snakes. "You have proven yourself worthy, young hero. What treasure do you seek?" the voice from last night echoed. "Home," he croaked out. "I want to go home." There were graves at the other side of the lake, marked with names of heroes who came looking for treasure. They got their treasure, yes, but what was the use of living with a treasure in a forest which had no way out? The end. Thank you for listening to the entire audiobook. If you enjoyed, make sure you like and subscribe as well as checking out the multiple servers. See you next time.